This is the living goddess of Nepal, the Kumari. During the 2015 Nepal earthquake, when towering buildings crumbled into dust, ancient temples were reduced to rubble, and even large parts of Kathmandu's historic royal square collapsed to the ground. The home of Nepal's living goddess suffered only minor cracks. Inside, those close to her remained calm and unharmed, not a single scratch to be found amidst the devastation. But who exactly is Nepal's living goddess? What's the story behind her sacred role? How is she chosen? And why is she eventually removed from her divine post? The Kumari, or Kumari Devi, is the only living goddess worshipped by both Hindus and Buddhists. She is a young girl chosen from Nepal's Niwa Shakya community, believed to be the earthly incarnation of goddess Taleju, a form of Durga, imbued with the fierce powers of both Kali and Taleju. In Nepal, she is seen as a symbol of power and protection, and many believe that in times of trouble, the living goddess watches over them. The tradition of worshipping the Kumari in Nepal has been formally practiced since the 17th century, though there is evidence suggesting that similar forms of Kumari worship have existed for over 2,300 years. There are many stories about the origin of the Kumari, but one tale is widely believed across Nepal, a story that dates back to the final king of the Malla dynasty, King Jayaprakash Malla, and his secret connection with goddess Taleju. According to legend, the goddess would appear in the king's chambers each night in the form of a beautiful woman. Together, they would play tripasa, a traditional dice game. But there was one condition. The king was never to speak of these nightly meetings to anyone. One evening, however, the queen grew suspicious and secretly followed him. When she discovered the goddess in his chamber, Taleju was furious. She vanished at once, severing the divine connection. Soon after, she appeared to the king in a dream. She told him that she would incarnate as a young girl from the Shakya community of Ratnawali, and that this child would embody her as the living goddess. Hoping to restore his bond with the goddess and protect his kingdom, King Jayaprakash Malla began the search for this divine child, and once she was found, he established a tradition of worship around her. He even built a palace for her residence, known today as the Kumari Gar. And so the Kumari tradition began, a tradition that has endured in Nepal ever since. That was the story of the Kumari's origin. But now comes the real question. How is the living goddess actually chosen? The selection process is both ancient and intense. It begins when several young girls from the Niwa Shakya community, usually around the age of 3, are identified as potential Kumaris. To qualify, the child must be in perfect physical health. She must never have bled from an injury, and none of her baby teeth should have fallen out. Only those who meet these basic conditions are then examined for 32 signs of physical and spiritual perfection. These include a neck like a conch shell, a body like a banyan tree, eyelashes like a cow's, thighs like a deer's, a chest like a lion's, a short tongue, and a voice as soft and clear as a duck's call. Her eyes and hair must be jet black. Her horoscope must align with the king's, and her hands and feet should be delicate and symmetrical. Most importantly, she must be naturally calm and fearless. This sacred process is overseen by 5 senior Buddhist Vajracharya priests, along with the royal astrologer and the head priest of Taleju. But even after passing these tests, one more, and perhaps the most daunting, trial remains. This special test takes place during the Kalratri, the 9 Black Nights of Dashain, Nepal's most important festival. For the final selection of the Kumari, the young candidate is brought into the candlelit courtyard of the Taleju temple. Here, she must spend the night surrounded by 108 heads of buffaloes and goats sacrificed to the goddess Kali. Masked men dance around her, making frightening noises, all while watching closely to see if she shows even a flicker of fear. She also has to search for the belongings of the ex-Kumari in the same courtyard. If she remains calm and chooses correctly, it is seen as the final proof that the goddess has truly entered her. Passing this test, she is then crowned the new living goddess Kumari. Once a girl becomes the Kumari, her childhood as she knew it comes to an end. She is removed from ordinary life and kept inside the Kumari Gar, a centuries-old palace fitted with a few modern comforts but steeped in tradition. Her days are spent in prayer, rituals, and sacred stillness. She rarely sees her parents, just 13 times a year, and steps outside only during major festivals. For the most part, the royal Kumari remains confined to a candlelit chamber, its walls marked with time, its only light from flickering oil lamps and wax candles. She is not permitted to leave the palace grounds on normal days. Only during festivals does she appear in public, carried through the streets on a gilded chariot. And when she does, people gather in droves, some just hoping for a fleeting glimpse. It is believed that even a single sighting of the Kumari can bring fortune and protection. But there's something striking about her presence. Her face remains completely expressionless, and if, by chance, she does display any emotion, it's taken as a prophecy. Should the Kumari laugh loudly, or worse, cry suddenly, it's considered a warning, a sign of impending illness, unrest, or even death. But no girl remains the living goddess forever. A Kumari holds her divine position only until the onset of menstruation. The moment her periods begin, she is considered to have lost the physical purity required to embody the goddess and must step down. In fact, even a single drop of blood from an accidental injury, even a scratch, is enough to disqualify her from continuing as the Kumari. Once relieved of her role, she is free to return to normal life. The state grants her a pension for life in recognition of her years of seclusion and service. But reintegration isn't always easy. A long-held belief warns that any man who marries a former Kumari will die young, a superstition that has made marriage difficult for many former goddesses.